Mama hasn't eaten, and she's collapsed. I received an urgent SOS from my 6-year-old granddaughter, who lives with my daughter and her husband. Her desperate plea shocked me. Mama gave me her food too, so she hasn't eaten anything at all. Grandma, come over. Help! According to my granddaughter, my daughter could only moan weakly and seemed unable to speak properly. I'm heading to now. I grabbed my car keys, praying for my daughter's safety, and dashed out of the house. What I saw next was far beyond anything I had imagined. My name is Wendy, a 65-year-old housewife. Ever since my husband, who was 5 years older than me, passed away 2 years ago, I've been living alone in our now too spacious house. I have some inheritance from him and my own earnings up until the age of 60, so I have no financial concerns. My only daughter, Holly, is married and lives about an hour's drive away with her husband. The highlight of my life is their occasional visits, especially with my granddaughter, Lynn. After Holly graduated from university, she went to Paris to pursue a career using her love for the French language. There she met Ted, who worked for an international company. They married and returned to the States. Once back, Holly decided to become a full-time homemaker to support him, and soon after, they were blessed with Lynn. Ted graduated from a prestigious university and works for a top tire company. He seems to have an elite status, but he has faced many challenges. To tell you the truth, it seems his father had difficulty holding on to jobs and changed them often, which put a strain on their finances. Didn't his mother work? She might have had part-time jobs sometimes, but she apparently didn't work that hard. Holly shared this hesitantly, implying Ted's parents were somewhat unconventional. Ted, despite this background, pursued his education zealously, securing scholarships and working part-time. He built his life through hard work, and Holly deeply respected him for it. Ted has had his share of struggles, and he doesn't want Lynn to face the same hardships. He's determined to save money and allow her to choose whatever path she wants, she said. He sounds like a warm-hearted person. Though it may sound self-serving to praise my own daughter, Holly is genuinely bright and kind-hearted. She gets along well with Ted and even with his slightly odd parents. Lynn has been growing up healthily, and I hadn't been worried about anything. However, there was a time when I felt something was amiss with Holly. It was when Lynn was 4. During one of their visits, Holly looked particularly drained. What's wrong? You look pale. Are you unwell or is there something bothering you? Well, there's a small concern. Holly confided that she had been sending Ted's financially struggling parents $700 monthly. However, they seemed to need more and had requested additional funds without Ted's knowledge. It seems my father-in-law quit his job again. That's troubling. It's hard for just you and Ted to shoulder this responsibility. Holly seems to want to save money for Lynn's future if possible, but it looks like it's getting difficult as she continues to spend on her in-laws. She thought about starting a job, but Ted told her, I often go on business trips, so I want you to be with Lynn. I want to care for Ted's parents since they are family, but I'm worried about how long this situation will last. Hearing this, I felt uneasy and somewhat dubious. I thought about ways I could help and explained my idea to Ted. Surprisingly, he was happy with the suggestion and readily agreed. I was relieved at that moment, but not everything went smoothly. 2 years later, a new problem arose. Shockingly, it was decided that Ted would be working abroad and would be stationed there alone. Hearing this, Ted's parents felt that it would be tough for Holly and Lynn to live just by themselves and suggested they all live together. Ted intended to respect Holly's wishes, but due to the strong insistence of his parents, Holly couldn't refuse. As a result, they decided to live together for the year until Ted returned. Knowing the issues Holly had with her in-laws, I kept in regular contact to check on her. It's okay. My father-in-law's new workplace has a good environment. It might last this time. And the job was introduced by Ted, which is good. Contrary to her words, mother's instinct, or whatever you'd call it, told me that there wasn't the same vibrancy in my daughter's voice. As I feared, suddenly communication from Holly stopped. I tried contacting her multiple times, but only reached voicemail, with no returned messages. Half a year after Ted left, I finally reconnected with Holly. Hello, Holly? I finally got through. Summer is almost over. Are you okay? I'm fine. I was hoping you and Lynn would visit during summer vacation. Mom, I'm sorry. We've been a bit busy. I have to run now. Talk to you later. Wait, but the call unexpectedly ended. Holly's voice sounded clearly less spirited than before. What's happening, Holly? I haven't seen you for over half a year. Why? Are both of you really okay? With growing anxiety, I felt I couldn't wait any longer. And then an unexpected event occurred. Mom doesn't have any food and she has collapsed. Suddenly, a call from Holly's phone came to my cell phone. Answering it, I heard what sounded like my granddaughter's distressed voice. Lynn, what happened to Mom? Mom gave her food to me, so she hasn't eaten anything. Grandma, please come. Help us. Through the tearful voice on the phone, I gathered that Holly was exhausted and found it difficult to communicate. Are there any adults like your grandpa or grandma around? If they find out I called, I'll get told off. That's when I remembered what Holly had told me. She had taught Lynn how to use her cell phone and delete calling history so that if something happens. And then Lynn revealed the shocking situation to Holly's in-laws. Hang on, I'm on my way. After telling Lynn to stay in a safe place, I immediately drove towards the in-laws' house. Holly, I'm coming. As I drove, tears streamed down my face. I blamed myself for not noticing sooner. At the same time, intense anger welled up towards Holly's in-laws. What have they done to my dear daughter and granddaughter? I'll never forgive them. With that anger, I accelerated the car. Upon arriving at the in-laws' house, I rang the doorbell, but there was no immediate answer. After repeatedly ringing, a voice finally responded. Why do you keep ringing? Who are you? I'm Holly's mother. Huh? Without any notice. Why did you come? It seemed Holly's father-in-law was taken aback and didn't come out immediately. I apologize for the sudden visit, but I need to see Holly. Can I come in? No? Holly and Lynn are out. Go home. I know they're home. Or is there another reason I can't come in? Enough! Don't come back! At that moment, that's quite a rude way to speak. A deep voice echoed from behind me. Before I knew it, a man appeared in front of me. That voice. Could it be? Sounds of movement came from inside the house, and the front door opened to reveal a surprised father-in-law. Boss, what brings you here? The man was the CEO of the father-in-law's company. In fact, after learning of the in-laws' financial demands from Holly, I had secretly taken action. Without telling Holly, I contacted Ted and introduced him to a company run by an old friend. I wanted the father-in-law to find employment there and become independent. The CEO, understanding my request, hired him on favorable terms. Wanting no gratitude, I kept my connection with the CEO and the introduction a secret, asking both Ted and the CEO to do the same. Having sensed something amiss after the call earlier, I contacted the CEO and we rushed over together. The CEO said, I came to talk. Let me in, and walked inside the in-laws' home. The father-in-law stood there, speechless in astonishment. As I tried to follow, Holly's mother-in-law came from a room inside, and both blocked my path. You have no right to enter. However, the CEO retorted, no, she's with me. The in-laws seemed terrified and were visibly shaking. Granny, over here. Help mommy. At that moment, Lynn ran over and began pulling my hand. Lynn, you've become so skinny. When I saw my granddaughter again, she looked considerably more gaunt than the last time I saw her. Before I had a chance to express my concern, I was hurriedly led by Lynn's voice, pushing me towards the back of the house. We stopped in front of a storage room located beneath the stairs. Holly, in a place like this? I quickly opened the door and cried out in shock and sorrow. There, I saw my emaciated daughter. Holly, Mom. With drowsy eyes and tears streaming down, my daughter weakly responded. I tightly held her frail hand. I'm so glad you're okay. Lynn told me you'd collapsed. Let's get you to a doctor right away. As I gently tried to lift my daughter, the CEO was quick to assist me. She doesn't need to see a doctor. Looking at her condition, can you still say that? We haven't done anything wrong. Liar. Mom always worked, and you both just chilled out. You only gave her a little food. Mom even gave her own portion to me. From what I had learned from a recent call with my granddaughter, ever since they started living together, my in-laws forced Holly to do all the household chores from dawn till dusk, like a housemaid. Even though Holly chose to cater to what she thought were her beloved husband Ted's parents, they criticized her daily. They'd say, she's bad at cooking, doesn't clean properly, and doesn't educate the kids right. They'd punish her by reducing her meals and saying, if you can't help properly, you belong in the storeroom. They even confiscated her mobile phone, purse, and bank book. When she'd object, they'd threaten to hurt Lynn. Learning this, I was appalled. Holly was enduring with even her limited meals being reduced, all for Lynn's sake. Due to the relentless unjust criticism, both physically and mentally exhausted and malnourished, Holly was unable to think straight. Why are you acting like a victim? We only scolded her a little. This is a grave issue. She could be in a life-threatening condition. I plan to get a medical report and file a lawsuit. Don't exaggerate. Don't interfere in our family matters. It's a nuisance. Holly is my beloved daughter, And so is Lynn. I can't forgive you for what you've done to them. At that moment, an exhausted Holly suddenly broke down crying. Mom, please stop. I'm afraid Ted will hate me. Holly, did he say something to you? He said he'd leave me and stop giving me living expenses. That's odd. I just spoke to Ted, and he said he's been sending $3,500 every month. Hearing this, the once defiant expressions of my in-laws changed, revealing their anxiety. So, it seems like you two have been pocketing the money Ted sent. Holly, they've been deceiving you. Does this mean the rumor about Ted having another girlfriend is also a lie? How could you push Holly to this point? I'll never forgive you. Just then, the sirens of the ambulance we called could be heard, and the CEO went out to guide the paramedics. Once he was out of sight, my father-in-law's attitude changed drastically, giving me a cold glare. It's originally the money our son earned. It's only natural for us to use it. There's no reason to give it to a daughter-in-law like you. If you can't accept that, you should take the child and leave. So, you've been harassing me almost every day for that reason, haven't you? Did you hear that, Ted? I spoke into my smartphone. In reality, I was on a call with Holly's husband, Ted, and was relaying everything his parents were saying to him. What are you talking about? Suddenly pale-faced, I showed the in-laws my smartphone screen with the speaker on. I'll never forgive you for putting my precious family, my wife and child, through this. I'm cutting off any support from now on. With his voice full of anger, the in-laws could only tremble. My father-in-law deeply bowed towards the phone. Ted, I'm sorry. We needed the money. We didn't mean any harm. This isn't a joke. I'll be home soon, so be ready. The returning boss, accompanied by paramedics, sternly said, There's no point in employing such a ruthless man. I took him in for Wendy's sake, but he's been a letdown. Hearing this, the in-laws quickly changed their attitude, prostrating and apologizing to me. We apologize for our inappropriate actions towards Holly. Without your help, we can't make ends meet. Could you possibly arrange it with Ted and the boss? You must be kidding. How do I forgive you two? I'll report everything to the police. Watching the paramedics carefully load Holly onto a stretcher, I smiled gently at my granddaughter, Lynn. You did great, Lynn. You saved your mom. Now it's time to go to the hospital. And then, let's have a rest at Grandma's house. Thanks, Grandma. At the hospital, my daughter and granddaughter were diagnosed with malnutrition. Lynn was discharged the same day, but Holly, deeply traumatized, required hospitalization. Later, Ted returned for a short period and decided to spend time with his wife and daughter. His presence brought back smiles to Lynn's face. Holly started showing signs of recovery, and I felt relieved. As for the in-laws, they were sent to prison after thorough police investigations. The boss had recorded their actions, confirming severe abuse. Since their home was rented, my daughter's in-laws were evicted. She claimed $47,000, $30K for embezzlement and $7K for damages. Not only did I know the boss, but I also had reliable childhood friends. With their help, the in-laws will repay the amount by working in a specific factory after their prison term. For now, we three are spending peaceful times together, hoping for Ted's return. Once he's back, the plan is for all four of us to live together at my place. I look forward to a brighter future, supporting my daughter and son-in-law and cherishing my granddaughter's happy days.